All right, folks. Hi, it's Mrs. Clemens, a little bit nasally, but ready to go to talk about vocab 7. All right. We're moving into that time period of nationalism versus sectionalism, and we've got some stuff going here for us. So, our first one is the Alien and Sedition Acts. What these did was put restrictions on immigrants and freedom of speech. The immigrant part is the alien, the sedition is the freedom of speech, as a reaction to the XYZ affair. And you might remember this political cartoon that I actually showed in class, where the Americans went over to France to deal with the whole idea of impressment, and they wanted a bribe. We got really upset about that, and so as retaliation, we issued the Alien Sedition Acts, which I guess is better than going to war. Then, because the alien part they weren't as upset about, but the sedition, Virginia and Kentucky issued these resolutions saying that they were unconstitutional and that they had the ability to declare those acts null and void, which, of course, they're unconstitutional because states don't have the power to decide whether things are unconstitutional. Only our Supreme Court or courts in general. So yeah, it was Madison and Jefferson that had written the Virginia-Kentucky resolutions. So nullification is that concept that laws could be null and void. The Virginia and Kentucky resolutions is the actual thing that nullified the Alien Sedition Acts. All right, so moving after this, we have the Louisiana Purchase. This is that huge amount of land that Jefferson purchased in 1803, which doubled the size of the United States. We bought it from France. It was about 4 cents an acre that we paid, which is pretty awesome. Remember, we had only wanted to get Louisiana a little bit of what is today Florida, and we did pretty well. Then Jefferson sent Meriwether Lewis and Mr. Clark out to go and explore that land, and so they're the ones that went with Sacagawea, and this is the path that they took. So not only did they go through the Louisiana Purchase, but they kept going, and they went all the way out to the Pacific Ocean because they wanted to see, well, how much more do we have to go to get out there? And they found a lot of great things, and really got people excited that we got all this land. It wasn't just a wasteland, as some people originally thought. All right, Marbury versus Madison. This is the Supreme Court case that is on every single region. It's so important. All right, so as I was saying, Marbury versus Madison established the principle of judicial review, and the most important Supreme Court case that we talk about. Just so Captain Crazy important. I like this quote here. It says, "It's emphatically the providence and duty of the judicial department to say what the law is." And basically, it's that idea of interpreting the Constitution and saying, what is constitutional and what is not constitutional. Our other big Supreme Court case from John Marshall is Mcculloch versus Maryland, and this is the one that stated that the bank was constitutional because of the elastic clause. And so here we've got a little cartoon that says, establishing a bank was necessary to carry out Congress's power to tax. Exactly, that's why we want it stopped. They were upset about it. They were trying to tax it, and the Supreme Court said, nope. Impressment, kind of switching gears a little bit, is the legalized kidnapping on the high seas, forcing people into the Navy, and so there they are being pulled away. As a result of the impressment that was going on from the British, in 1807 we issued an embargo where we banned trade with other countries, and this is a political cartoon where they're quite unhappy with the embargo. They feel like it's killing their business. And John C. Calhoun, he's somebody who we'll be talking a bunch about. He leads us into the War of 1812 and ultimately kind of leads us into the Civil War, even though he wasn't alive then. But he's a Southern leader. He's from South Carolina. He believes in states' rights, and he favors nullification, like we talked about in the last slide, but also he loves himself some slavery. There he is. Sexy. All right. No, he's not. And our last 5, nationalism. Now, remember last year in Global, you heard, nationalism was loyalty and devotion to a nation. In this time period in U.S. history, it's putting a national interest ahead of sectional interests. And so one example of nationalism is the Monroe Doctrine, where we said, hey, don't get involved in our half, in the Western Hemisphere. So here's Uncle Sam. He's, basically saying, I control all this, and he's got the bat of the Monroe Doctrine. The Missouri Compromise, another thing kind of balancing that whole idea of nationalism and sectionalism. It said, Missouri, you came in as a slave state. Maine's going to come in as a free state. So here's Maine, here's Missouri. And then they were going to, for the rest of the Louisiana Purchase, they were going to use the 3630 line to say that to the north was going to be free and to the south was going to be slave. Andrew Jackson, we are going to talk a whole ton more about him. He was the president who opposed nullification in the 1830s. So this isn't the same nullification that we were talking about in the last slide. He does oppose the Bank of the United States. He supported the removal of Native Americans, and he, when we talk about the Trail of Tears, and he uses the spoils system to give jobs to supporters. And so, yeah, the spoils system is giving, your supporters jobs in the government. That's where you get the whole phrase, to the victor go the spoils. All right, guys, good luck with your vocab. Oh, there's Andrew Jackson. Good luck with your vocab, guys. You'll do great in the quiz.